Twitch has the music, YouTube does not. If you want to know why, it's because YouTube can be very unforgiving for streaming your music, like streaming music onto the stream. And Twitch allows you to do some stuff where you can actually play music during your stream, and then like move out in the recording. Alright, using the Peterson. Okay. I mean, functions are great. Honestly, functions are the best. We should always have functions, I think. And functions are just like the best, man. I love functions. Uh, like literally, you're not coding if you're not using functions. That's my personal opinion on that. If you're not using functions, you're just not coding. Sure, you can code without functions, but so much of what you're gonna do piles functions. Uh, yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't print anything out. I mean, it could print something out, but I guess this is the code here. I can't really see the code, but I'm pretty sure that's the code. That's one of the annoying things about Zybooks is that you can't basically see anything. I mean, you can see stuff here. Cool. Get pattern. Call get pattern twice and print message sets on and print 10 characters. Okay. Print get pattern, and then I can just copy and paste that. There we go. I assume this is gonna get much harder because they're gonna ask for a bunch of different math things. Because of course they're gonna ask for a math thing, and I'm not gonna know how to do that math thing. Oh wait, because what I would do personally is store the value in a variable and then return it, but I'm also not like, I guess I'm not Codal. I guess that's not me, man. See, this is what I would do always. Sick. I mean, I kind of have a parameter named numGrade for a function named casting the value calculates 21 is the following Interesting. User age, the value of user age, plus one, 4321. Multiple parameters separated gammas. Parameters are assigned with argument values post for a parameter, and this false argument second with the second. A function definition with no parameter with zero parentheses, as in def calc something. The call to such function must include parentheses and must be empty, as in calc something. Cool. I pretty much know how to use functions, so I mean, it's pretty easy. Okay. Oh, passes too. Okay. That's what I missed. Give a function definition. Oh shit, wait, hold up. I just realized that my mic was like really low for that entire time. So you can't hear me like at all. So this should be much better now. I'm sorry about that. But as I said, I mean, as I didn't say, I'm doing homework, and you might notice that my URL bar is hidden. You can't see anything in my URL bar. That's because I have some custom code that I made. I right after I started the first stream earlier. I immediately ended that stream and was like, nah, I'm actually gonna just create something to hide my URL bar that's toggleable. So, like, for example, if I go over to YouTube over here, right, and then I click this right here, it's gonna it it's gonna say, okay, it shows the URL bar. This is something that I need to fix, but it will show my URL bar now, and then if I click this, it will then now hide it. There was a lots of stuff I need to fix up. Okay, it'll take me a minute to fix up, but I'll fix up eventually. Given a function definition of def calc value ABC, B is assigned with 55 because it's a second one. And given variables I, J, and K, what are valid arguments in the call calc val? Whatever, bro. Why would you do this? Why would you do KI plus J? Jesus. Plus 90. Bro. I mean, it does work, I guess. But I'll just add the ones that it already would use. What would be returned for the following function called compute sum 1, 2, 3. Using compute name to sum of x and 400. Okay. Total calories of a pizza with pizza diameter. For plate, okay, type the expression for placeholder calc pizza calories for slice X. I don't know. Oh wait, pizza diameter. Hold up. Pizza diameter. I don't know what. I'm so. That's why I put. Oh wait, I'm fucking. No, I'm confused. What? Oh wait, I didn't read the top thing. But I don't know, but I don't even know. Z function to its on the hours given minutes. Okay, so that's easy. So okay, so hours equals the original minutes divided by 60. Then return hours. Then let's run that. Boom. So x plus 1, so that's gonna be 5. Well, fuck. I hate that. Okay, so 1 4, so it's gonna be 5 again because it's gonna just add it and then return that. So x plus y, so that's gonna be 5 still. I mean, that wasn't really that hard. I mean, okay, so define a function called calculate. Okay, calculate. Okay, well, I've got to do def calculate val. And I'm gonna do the num that returns. So that I'm just gonna say 7.2 times num, and we'll return that num. And return 7 point times. That has one parameter and returns 7.2 times. That's what I did. What? Am I fucking retarded or some shit? Why is this not? Why is this not returning the thing? Oh wait, I'm fucking stupid. Okay, I returned the wrong value. Why did I get? Okay. Okay, next level. Okay, so def compute result. Delta sun, so I'm gonna do A and B. Or I'll just do actually X, Y. So that returns a sum of minus. Okay, so then sum equals x plus y, and then I'm just gonna say results equals sum minus 8.9, and then I'm gonna return the result. And that should work, yeah, boom. Full try. Pretty easy. Okay. Next chapter. Next mini micro section. I'm just gonna open up like the next couple of things here. Actually, we're not gonna do 6.3 because that's optional. So 6.2. I mean, I can't really see anything, but it's running very slow too, so I don't know what the fuck is going on with my PC right now. I'm not dropping frames on the stream at least, so I don't know. I think my I don't know. Hold up. I honestly don't know what the fuck's happening right now. I might have like some issues, bro. Prompt must be performed in the print operations must be performed in the main program. I mean, no. I don't think you should really ever print inside of a function though, unless you're providing debugging information. Okay, we got that. Okay. One. Not quit program. Or you usually in like I think C you'd say okay this is a void function, but in Python you don't have to say that. It just says okay you just don't return anything and it's a void function technically. You are 19. Price. Product price plus tax amount. 17 plus 6 is 23. Oh, I forgot the fucking. Of course, that's the 30 plus 6 is 33. Am I fucking retarded? Yes, I am. Price. 21. There we go. You know what, Bo? I'm just gonna run this in Python because I don't want to do this shit right now. Okay, so Python. It equals 5. Boom. Make Joe 23. There we go. I hate those things because all you have to do is run the code. Like, 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 yes, you could just look at it and but that takes a lot of time to look through the code. I mean, just copy and paste it into your terminal or whatever, and you're good. It's such a stupid practice thing, in my opinion. Sure, I guess understanding the code itself is like useful, like understanding how it works is useful, but I already know how it works. Like it's very very simple code, but I guess that's just me. The def print region after XY. And that has to and outputs the following on X plus is Y plus S capital. That's probably gonna be wrong because this here is gonna be wrong. I mistyped that probably. Yeah, I mixed up the levels. Let me get the camera up here. Yeah, I cannot spell this word for some reason. I'm just fucking that cooked, bro. Just that cooked. What can I say? And I forgot the dot. Dev brings this print my favorite things. You know what? I'm gonna. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna do that because I'm really lazy. Def, right, def, right, product of two XY. Product equals XY equals Y. So X1 E. There we go. Fairly easy. Oh, I'm just so tired of doing this shit, bro. I literally verified the email, by the way, just now. I don't know why it's saying is not verified. But that is so fucking stupid. I literally already did this, bro. Why is my fucking computer running at 74 degrees? Why is it so fucking hot? Please, somebody let me know. Somebody, please. Why is my CPU being utilized this much? Like, on God, why is my whatever, bro? Something seems wrong. Whatever. I don't fucking know. I really don't get what the fuck's going on with my CPU right now. Yeah, whatever, bro. We don't kill. Let me adjust my DPS real quick. Yeah, that's good. That's valid. It's valid. That's valid. That's valid. Oh, wait, I didn't fucking. Okay. Let's use the Fahrenheit. So Fahrenheit equals Celsius times 9 5 divided by 5 plus 32. Three, two. Oh, I didn't even need to do that. Yeah, but that's a pretty basic program that I think every programmer like it's in every single like book that you do. Like this exact program is in every single book pretty much. I'm pretty sure that it's in like every single fucking book, no matter what book you do. It's in every single one of them. I'm not kidding. Oh, what's the homework on? It's scripting, bro. I don't know when you said that, but I've been looking at my Twitch chat. I've been looking at YouTube chat. Let me do a pop out chat real quick and just get it down, no volume. Bro, God, man, this shit is low key cooked. Cause I'm doing the scripting. I'm doing scripting right now, and I'm gonna transition to doing advanced technical writing, so some writing, which is gonna be fun. Cause I have to do 3 different assignments tonight, and for that class, that's valid. That's just not valid. I guess that's valid. Yeah, that's invalid. That's invalid. Way. Val 9. Yeah. Who fucking cares at this point? New chat. Oh, you're unscripting. Okay. Okay, Loki. I don't get. Day 4. Let's try that. I don't know what that. You know, even. Okay, so. Oh wait, Oh wait, I know what's wrong. That should fix it. Huh? How did I get that? Max sum is 10 out of, okay, so 5, 10, 3, 3 and 7. Oh wait. So the grades of number and number plus the grades of number. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was trying to find one number, and they did want one number, but they wanted one number of the sum. Okay, it's good. Ups to 1 liter. Okay, so liter equals ups. Wait, so equals 1 cup times this. So it should be something like that, I think. Yeah. It should be something like that, I think. I probably mistyped it.
Never
Wait. Okay, we're back. I really need to replace this camera, bro. Yeah. That should now work because the function should actually be there. Whoops, Miles. I got the S. Hmm. I got 17,600 and this got. So I think it's the first one. So I think the Miles calculation. No, I don't. No. Wait. So zero kilometers and yards did work, but 420 miles. Uh, I'm not sure. I'll be right back. Okay, I'll actually be back now. I'll be like back in like uh, 2-3 minutes. Ugh. Huh. Oh shit, I'm fucking stupid. Yo, wait, I'm actually stupid, bro. I read that wrong. Hold up. Okay. Let me switch back to this. I'm gonna turn off my camera for now because it's black and I don't feel like fixing it and stuff. Okay, so equals. Okay, so. Okay, I'm just gonna add this here. Cause I'm fucking lazy. Who knew? You could improve this logic, but I don't really care. That logic could be better. That's a fat, stinky type of logic, but it works. Find the following function. So the first function is find base. Okay, so def find base area function that okay it has one parameter raid grad. So then area equals math dot pi times the rad return rad. So then def find vol has two parameters rad height. What you return is the volume equals find base area rad times the height and return the volume. And let's see if that works. Expect. Oh wait. What did I do wrong? Is it literally that I didn't need to put that though? I'm fucking stupid. Okay, there we go. So 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, 6.11, 6.13, and then the labs. One, two, three, four. Five. Who fucking knows? Okay, we're just gonna do this, right? Film test.py. Oh, wait. Whoops. My CD. Boom. Cool. Cool. It should be something like that. Cool. Wait, messages. List. Uh, this seemed fucking pointless, and I don't know. I guess. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but nice. What? Uh, cool. I think it should be like something like Oh wait. Should be something like that. Thank God. E 2 steps. Eagle. What's up? Went 5 feet. So every step times 2.5. Three. There we go. I guess let's get done with strings, and then I'll also do list, cause I'm trying to get this shit done and wrapped up. Trying to wrap this shit up. So didn't we already cover strings? It was literally in variables, bro. Wow, what could you possibly cover about strings again? Okay, you know what? I'll check that later. Okay, well. Okay, so this is what we have over here. I've got hold up. Okay, so I've got the text version of this article over here. Because what I did is I had they gave me a PDF, right? And yeah. And they gave me the PDF, right? And what I did is when they gave me the PDF, I put it into an OCR tool to convert that to actual text, right? And now I can actually read that text in just text form instead of having to look at like an image of the fucking PDF, which is so stupid. Yeah, well, that representing text content as a image inside of a PDF is so stupid because PDFs can have built-in text. It actually happened with the Epstein files, right? Where they had leftover text in the PDFs that they released. So they had a bunch of PDFs that they digitized and then they blacked stuff out in it. But they didn't actually remove the text underneath. They didn't actually remove the text below some of the redactions. And you could just unredact the files like that. But now they kind of clamped down on that. So you can't do that anymore with most of the Epstein files. And a lot of the redactions were just genuinely people that shouldn't have got redacted. It's so stupid. And of course, some people, like, some victims were unredacted and they were like, and like, come on, bro. You either do it right or you don't do it all. That's my opinion on that, right? But in my opinion, the Epstein stuff is kind of like old news now. Like a lot of those files that got released are old news now, and people don't care about that much anymore. So so red damage. So save support. This is where I was on. Watch where I was going. Let me just see real quickly. Don't you ask the kids at Cinnamon Square reason why they want them in the skies as hypnotizing a vision. Oh, so today, strong has been my lunch meal. Um, I had a bite, a very big bite for the big balls. So let's test this product. Oh, it's so big. I don't even know how to pack it. So what is that? So apple day. Sound a lot. So today you will be trying the big hole. So we have it right here, as you can see. This has been my lunch. Um, I had a bite, a very big bite for the big balls. So let's test this product. Yeah, I got this whole meal for $5 99 cents. Rain. Really big bite for the big art. So today you will be trying the big balls. So we have it right here, as you can see. This has been my lunch meal. Uh, I already had a bite, a very big bite for the big balls. So let's test this product. Oh, it's so big. I don't even know how to pack it. So today, all right. So I'm gonna go on the be right back screen for a little bit. I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes, but I will be back. that took a little bit longer than I expected, but my best. I really don't want to do this writing, bro. You know what we're gonna do instead of homework? We're gonna watch YouTube.com, baby. Hold up. Okay, we're gonna watch YouTube.com, baby. Let's watch this one. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. Let me just like turn up my volume a little bit. Yeah, that seems good.
GDP. Now, 10% of our entire GDP. Now, 10% of
Okay, that's good.
economic output going
We
towards
got
spinning the
the
wheels
audio
of
working
medical
on
bureaucracy isn't
everything.
great. But this broken window still represents millions of jobs, not to mention a lot of our financial system. They might contribute nothing outside of justifying their own existence, but now that they are there, they are extremely hard to remove. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Just because something is hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And even for the people who don't believe in socialized medicine, the bureaucratic bloat in healthcare is still a problem. But it's also important to realize that no policymaker wants to preside over millions of lost jobs, even if it would fix one of the biggest ongoing burdens on the nation. Oh yeah, and one last thing. Before all of you non-Americans start feeling too smug about the rock and a hard place we have wedged ourselves into, it's probably worth exploring how we have exported this issue across the world to the point where there is a pretty good chance we are making your health outcomes worse as well.
I think what's happening today is actually quite important, which is a reflection of the sprawling bureaucracy that's actually making America sick.
Families have to check their bank account before seeing a doctor. The result is that manageable conditions go untreated until they become emergencies, which is worse, of course, for the patient.
Younger Americans die earlier than young people in other developed countries. That statistics drags down the overall American life expectancy. American men ranked last among the 17 countries in that study. Women, by the way, were second to last.
Now, before we get into it, I think a bit of context is in order. About 5 years ago, I was personally very much a part of the problem in this industry. I worked as an investment banker specializing in businesses operating specifically in healthcare. The scale of the regulations and business activity that takes place in the system between you and your medical care was big enough that several firms could specialize in just serving these companies. The fact that several investment banks can be kept afloat just off the fees they charge as a middleman on transactions between other middlemen in the medical industry should give you a sense of just how much bloat has been piled onto the end goal of treating illness. In fact, the broken incentives, lobbying, anti-competitive business practices, and simple entrenched interest was part of the reason why I started this channel to begin with. It's easy and honestly a little bit cathartic to anthropomorphize the players in this game and group them into heroes and villains. But to get a good understanding of the problem, it's a lot more productive to follow the simple conflicting incentives that have logjammed the system so badly that it's basically impossible to get things done without stepping on someone else's toes. So in the interest of fairness, I want to start with the doctors themselves, because of course, typically they get much less blame than something like an insurance company, because well, you know, they actually achieve something. But they still have incentives of their own and bodies that lobby aggressively to protect those interests. Becoming a doctor, and especially a specialist, takes a long time, and puts most students into a massive amount of debt. According to the AAMC, the median medical student was graduating $205,000 in debt, and that's accounting for some people who were able to get a scholarship or had parents to fund their education. For students going the private college route, that number can be as high as $400,000. To compensate for these immense upfront costs and several years of lost earnings compared to their peers, it's always been the expectation that American doctors are paid extremely well. And on average, they are. Physicians in America are paid on average almost double that of other OECD countries, and even extremely high-income outliers like Switzerland. Oh, and as something of foreshadowing, you might have noticed that Canada is right up there with us, but more on that later. In a lot of other countries, being a doctor is still a prestigious and highly respected job, but it doesn't come with nearly the same expectation of earnings. And in America, this wasn't by mistake either. The American Medical Association, which represents physicians, has lobbied Congress relentlessly to limit residency positions for students graduating from medical school. The Medicare Graduate Medical Education
Of
funding
course
has
they
shifted more
have.
or less in
Because why would you ever want any college students touching the field? I mean, why would you ever want that?
tax since 1997, but during that same time, we have added 70 million people to our population. This has all limited the supply of doctors to the point where the AAMC estimates that we will have 139,000 fewer physicians than we need by 2033 as
Of
our population
course.
continues to age. But on the demand side, there has been just as much meddling. One of the other big pushes by the AMA is to make sure that there are lots of things that can only legally be done by a doctor, even when they could be done by a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, or a non-physician specialist like an occupational therapist for a lot of this work. Now, of course, something like brain surgery should probably require a specialist to be present, but a lot of the tasks that legally only doctors can perform really aren't that important or that sensitive. One of the most egregious examples of this scope creep is the amount of time that doctors spend justifying routine prescriptions and procedures to health insurance providers. Now,
Yeah.
despite being some more foreshadowing about how bureaucracy creates bureaucracy, even if this was all totally necessary,
We
most of this
love
work
that,
is simple
don't
data
we?
entry, which could easily be done by a trained receptionist. But because only doctors are deemed worthy of these specific tasks, they have to spend their valuable time filling out online forms, a cost which is ultimately passed along to their patients. America has by far the highest medical administration cost per capita anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
We spend more than triple the runner-up, which is Germany. And bureaucratic administration is basically their cultural identity.
Yeah, Germany. Germany. We love you, but you're your bureaucracy. Yeah. Anyway, let's
Just
continue.
one of the causes. A simple combination of bottlenecking the number of doctors entering the field and then wasting their time once they are there means that they're
Yeah, bro, cause like every single time I have to get my prescriptions renewed, I have to go to my doctor and get them to renew the prescriptions every single fucking time. It's so fucking annoying. It's so freaking annoying, and like realistically, yeah, my prescription's not gonna change. It's not. So you might as well just let me renew it. It's so fucking stupid.
hours become extremely valuable. Medical schools have realized this, which
It's a
means they
waste
can
of
charge
time.
more. And even the doctors themselves, who largely do just want to help people, aren't going to turn down a far higher than average income, because they need it to pay off their far higher than average debt. The same goes
Yeah.
for things like indemnity insurance, licensing, and training. All of these things can be expensive because doctors are paid well. But doctors need to be paid well because everything they do to maintain their professional standings is expensive. But alright, so far all of this is still only counting the groups that do still largely want to help people. And of course, these little inefficiencies have snowballed into something much larger. There are fewer than 1 million direct patient care physicians in America, but over 20 million people employed by the healthcare industry in total, with an alarming share doing very little in the way of actually caring for anybody's health. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how it got this bad.
That was the introduction? Yeah.
And why it's become almost impossible to undo. If you've ever looked at a system like healthcare and wondered why it never seems to change, then this free report from HubSpot called Industries Ripe for Disruption is exactly
What is this, a fucking... What is this, a fucking... This is a fucking ad? Of course it is.
It breaks down the industries that are
This ad is low-key.
and explains what's holding them back. This report
It's graded
covers
really well,
everything
though.
from healthcare and education to real estate and insurance. Basically the sectors where outdated business models and regulation have created massive inefficiencies. If you've ever looked at an industry and thought, how has nobody fixed this yet? This report digs into exactly that. My favorite section is the breakdown of what makes an industry disruptible in the first place. Things like high customer frustration, fragmented incumbents, and regulatory moats that are starting to crack. It's the kind of framework that actually changes how you evaluate opportunities. Whether you're looking to build something in one of these spaces or just want to understand where the biggest shifts are coming, this is worth bookmarking. This resource was made by HubSpot, who's sponsoring this video. Download it for free at the link in my description and see
I got
what
emailed.
next. Okay, so another group that is often overlooked in this whole equation are the hospitals themselves. Like a lot of things in the economy, hospitals and practices have become
Yeah,
another
that's not my
entrenched part of
type.
the system simply because of how consolidated they have become. Medical groups have become so dominant in certain areas that patients effectively have no other options if they want a certain procedure outside of traveling several hours. At the same time, the number of doctors that run their own private practice has been consistently shrinking, as the industry pressure has pushed doctors into these collective health systems. Oh, and well, you know I had to bring it up eventually. But the Government Accountability Office has also pointed out the role of private equity,
AKA Doge.
buying up regional medical practices to create local monopolies on care. Now, anti-competitive practices are nothing new in any industry anymore. The FTC has been infamously flaccid with their enforcement for the last 45 years. But the medical industry in particular gets away with a lot more than it should for two specific reasons. The first is that healthcare is complicated. The average regulator hasn't been to medical school to argue against industry groups claiming that a merger is necessary for patient outcomes. The second is that the actual costs that come out of these mergers are extraordinarily opaque. Of course, public enemy number one in this whole game are the private insurance companies. And don't worry, we will get to them soon enough. But a lot of these combined groups have become so large that not even insurance providers can push back against their market power. If a hospital system has a monopoly over a critical medical service in an area, people will change their insurance if their current insurance provider doesn't cover that network. Large insurers do have more negotiating power than individual payers, but if a hospital is the only game in town, there really isn't much they can do. This consolidation has also pushed insurers into all-or-nothing contracts, where large health systems will require insurers to include all their facilities in their coverage, including the expensive ones, or else they won't provide access to any of them. Now, obviously, health insurers aren't the victim here, but in certain areas, this does prevent them from making a narrower network of providers just offering basic services for a potentially more cost-effective plan. All-or-nothing contracts also incentivize hospitals to provide services that may not have been demanded, even by the massively distorted market, since they are being strong-armed into covering it anyway. Even for services provided to patients on Medicare, there are logical incentives that push up prices. One of the key groups that decide how much a medical service should cost Medicare is the Specialty Society Relative Value Scale Update Committee. A bit of a mouthful, so it's normally called RUC. This is a group of 31 physicians who volunteer to provide guidance on how to value a physician's work for computing healthcare prices. Now, naturally, a group of physicians would like to say that physicians are worth quite a lot. But this group is also overwhelmingly made up of specialists, creating a bias that overvalues specialist procedures over simple primary care. Now, the reason why this is important is because the prices this group lays out are almost always adopted by Medicare, and the prices adopted by Medicare act as a price floor template for the rest of the industry as a whole, with various built-in markups. Honestly, it's not too dissimilar to how government treasuries determine the rates that people pay on their home loans and credit cards. All of these conflicting groups obviously create a lot of friction in an already very complex industry, which also allows for other groups to cash in ways that are harder to notice with everything else going on. Pharmaceutical companies make roughly 40% of their global revenue here in America, even though we have 4% of the world's population. It's no secret that we massively overpay for medicine, but within this whole mess, who's going to notice? The US market has become so lucrative that we have effectively subsidized R&D for the rest of the world, because selling a new drug to Americans is so profitable that every other country can basically just break even. And then, of course, boxing this whole thing in are health insurance companies, which may get some pushback from some of the big healthcare groups.
You know what? I agree with Trump, bro. They should be paying for it. They should be paying for it. You know? They've been exploiting us, you know? So something like that.
Still ultimately pass everything along to regular consumers, in costs that are usually obfuscated by employer healthcare plans. These guys keep everything out of sight and out of mind for most people, until they actually need to deal with it. And then, of course, they have an incentive to delay, deny, and defend. Even if it did function,
delay, deny, defend, baby. The 3
healthcare
Ds.
is never going to be a normal market.
The 3 Ds.
Asymmetry is huge. The groups paying the bills are rarely the ones receiving the support. Prices are borderline impossible to find, and even if you could get access to this information and actually understand it, you can't shop around while you're dying. Now, it certainly doesn't help that the regulators who should be in there trying to direct this traffic jam towards something slightly more functional are being paid off by these various parties to let them get a little bit further ahead in traffic at the expense of making it impossible to fix the system as a whole. According to Open Secrets, the healthcare sector is the #1 lobbying spender in the country, spending almost $750 million in 2024 alone, just at the federal level. But now the thing is, this has been going on for so long that even if it was completely fixed and ironed out tomorrow, there is too much built up in it. Every one of these groups employs tens of thousands of people to negotiate, coordinate, lobby, market to, or just plain old sue all of the other groups. Each and every one of these groups is just trying to serve their own self-interest, but none of those interests are aligned, and the group that is consistently made to compromise is the patient right in the middle of everything with the least understanding and negotiating power. Another slightly darker visual metaphor is that often rats will get their tails caught together, and as they run to try and free themselves, they only end up pulling the knot tighter. Collectively, this administrative bloat built to service the administrative bloat is one of the largest employers in the country, and, at least up until recently, has been one of the only industries safe from layoffs. If we could snap our fingers tomorrow and replace our healthcare system with something like what exists in Australia, we would lose 7.5% of our economic, productivity, and shed millions of these jobs. It's also worth noting that Australia's system is not exactly an unfair comparison. They also have very well compensated doctors on average. They have extremely good health outcomes and rely on a blended system of private health insurance and public Medicare. Either way, this would be a larger hit to both of these numbers than the global financial crisis. However, that doesn't mean it's not worth trying, because over time, this problem is only getting worse. The size of the healthcare industry has consistently been growing faster than the size of the overall economy. By 2033, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services predicts that more than 1/5 of our entire economy will be dedicated to healthcare.
Holy shit!
Up around it. But just like healthcare has slowly grown on the economy, it can also slowly be disassembled over time as well. Simple things like antitrust enforcement, proper lobbying regulation, and more transparency will at the very least deal with the elements that are intentionally trying to pile more logs into the logjam. We may lose some jobs like internal auditors for the legal firms, servicing the investment banks, managing the deals between market information providers, giving leads to pharmaceutical sales businesses that sell third-party generic substitutes to regional healthcare groups, but that's just measuring the, downsides. One of the biggest hurdles to skilled professionals starting businesses of their own is losing the healthcare security that comes along with being a skilled professional. Removing one of the biggest obstacles to genuine business development in the long term would be far healthier for the economy than piling another layer of administration on top of our healthcare system. Finally, it might also solve what some consider to be one of the most existential problems in the world. We aren't having enough babies. But when a visit to the hospital can be bankrupting, maybe this shouldn't be too shocking. Especially to the same group of people who want to replace us all with AI anyway. But go and watch this video next to find out why they still really want you to have a child anyway, because it gets really weird.
Cool. Very interesting video by How Many Walks. Great creator. Let's just pick another video. Should we react to a video that's yeah, nah. Let's see. I keep seeing this one on my page, so I guess let's do this
talk
one.
about the System D age field stuff, because there's been a lot of discussion about where we go a year, 3 years, 5 years from now, but very little discussion about specifically what this PR is adding. And because of that, frankly, I don't think a lot of the discussion is very useful about what the change actually is. So, this is the PR in question in System D. UserDB, add birth date field to JSON user records. And the commit message saying, add a birth date field to the JSON
God
user
damn
record.
it, man. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. I had to do a little thing.
stored internally as a struct in this format here. The field is serialized as a year, month, date string in JSON and validated via parse birth date. Validated as a real date, not verifying that it is your actual birth date. So if you enter something like, I hate Lennart Pottering, that is not a date. Also, unlike you're seeing in some of the builds, this is not an age group, so saying you're below this age, between this age, above this age, this is an actual date. Most of this video is going to be me talking about what is actually changing here and the opinions of some of the developers. If you want my actual opinions, jump ahead to the last, I don't know, couple minutes of the video. This stores the user's birth date for age verification as required by recent laws in California AB 1043, Colorado SB 26.
Bro, fuck the law, bro.
Lay 15.211/2025 and all the rest of them. Most US states have either something being drafted or something that is very likely going to already be on the books. Countries like Australia have laws, the UK, Canada, I know doesn't yet, but they are definitely thinking about it, and there is a bunch of other places all drafting up very similar laws. I know some people are kind of behind the news on where things actually are. This isn't just California and Colorado anymore. This is a lot of other places. The XDG Desktop Portal project is adding an age verification portal in this PR here. I might do a separate video on this, but I want to focus mainly on the systemd change. I'll leave this link down below if you want to check it out, though. That needs a data source for the user's age. UserDB already stores personal metadata, email address, real name, location, so birth date is a natural fit. There is a very high probability you had absolutely no idea that systemd was storing this information about you. And this is not a new addition. This has been here pretty much the entire time there's been a user record component of systemd. If you'd like to check that information on your own system, what you can do is userdbctl, user, and the name of your user. And you're going to notice something. It's very likely that that's not actually storing that information. User, and the name of your user. And you're going to notice something. It's very likely that it's not actually storing that information, okay? We can actually do it with sudo, and that is going to provide you some more information. You have the real name, email address, location, and a bunch of other information, and at least on my system, they are completely empty. So these fields are entirely optional to enter. If you're on something like Arch Linux, when you set up your user account, you probably didn't enter any of that information. So on my system, none of that is entered. If you're on something that has a GUI installer and asks for things like your real name, maybe your location, things like that, it is very likely that information is being stored in these fields. So specifically, what is being added with this pull request is like there is a real name, like there's an email address, like there's a location, and all of these other things, an additional field is being added for your birth date. This is something I just don't feel comfortable entering, and I wouldn't enter on one of my own systems. But if you're in something like a corporate network, a university, things like that, that is a situation where you probably are already providing them that information anyway, and then that would be a way to store that within the systemd userdb. One common thing I've been seeing is, why is there even this information being stored in systemd in the first place? I thought systemd was an init system. There's no reason for that to be in an init. And you'd be correct, but systemd also isn't an init system. One of the components of systemd is an init system, but systemd is a suite of tools, and one of those tools is userdb, the database of users, and that is where the information is being stored. Now, do I think there should be one suite that does everything on your system? That's a whole nother discussion, and it's pretty easy to argue that maybe the systemd suite is a little bit too big. But that's the way it is. Another thing people have been talking about is this Dylan M. Taylor who actually made the pull request. To my understanding, they were not actually an active developer in systemd before this pull request was made, and you might know that they've also been going around and creating very similar other pull requests in projects like Archinstall and a bunch of others as well. Now, I do think it's certainly interesting that one person is going around and making these pull requests on various different projects. And if somebody wants to dig into who this person is and what they're involved in, hey, be my guest. I am not going to stop you. At the same time, I don't personally think it is that interesting when you have developers who actually are active developers, like Lennart Potter, for example, who are still in support of these changes being made. So whilst the origin, you might argue, is a little bit weird, at the end of the day, it was probably going to be made by a systemd developer somewhere along the line anyway. As long as the code is good, frankly, I don't really care who started it. However, like with Meta probably being behind these laws, if somebody wants to go and do some digging and work out if anyone is paying this guy and why he's the one going around and doing this, and wants to do some documentation on this and all this good stuff, feel free to send it my way. So, this PR was submitted about 2 weeks ago on the 5th of March, Australian time. Since then, most of the discussion, obviously people found this at some point and started downvoting it. This has since been locked because a bunch of people started jumping in the thread. Most of the discussion in here is pretty much just about the quality of the code, the formatting of the code, things like that. Really boring back-end stuff that, frankly, not worth talking about. Somewhere along the way, an additional pull request was opened to change it from just being a birth date to also an age group, which in some of the bills is the only requirement. The strongest argument against doing so was this here. The biggest practical problem with age group is it needs to be regularly updated, as users age, but also as the laws change. This applies even to adults. What if there are multiple overlapping categories? What if in one case you need age, but another you need group? And then if your group changes, so you go from being, let's say, 15 to 16, let's say this is another group, or let's say 17 to 18, now you're in the adult group, you then got to bug the user constantly, like, hey, did your group change? Did your group change? Did your group change? And that's really annoying, right? That is a really annoying UX. Is there a better way to do it? Probably. But at least with that argument, I do see what is being said there. Regardless of why it wasn't done,
I get it, bro.
Planned, so the change that was added was your birth date, not your age group. From what I can see, the first person outside of systemd who found this pull request was Jeremy Stoller from System76. Now, back during my first age verification and attestation video, I did include his comment about the whole situation, not just about this, but everything going on that were over on Reddit. So, let's check it out. We are in talks, we as in System76, are in talks with legislators, and there are very likely to be amendments to the age verification bills, as well as conflicting requirements in different jurisdictions. It may even be the case that open source operating systems are exempted entirely. I detailed this on the XDG mailing list over here. This is talking about what Carl Rochelle has been doing. So Carl Rochelle is the CEO of System76. And I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it here again. Basically, he's actually going outside and he is talking to senators and he is trying to make a change. He is trying to get open source operating systems exempted from these bills. He talked to Matt Bull, the co-author of the bill in Colorado, and there is some possible interest in making that happen. It is not guaranteed, it is not certain to happen, but there is at least some willingness to listen to the arguments. More recently than this, he had further talks with Colorado politicians, and again, there are concerns, there is a possibility, at the very least, they are willing to come to the table and discuss why people have issues with this. Is this going to change anything? Right now, unclear. Also, this is just in Colorado. It doesn't include states like California and all of the other states that all have very, very similar laws. Back to Jeremy, I have other concerns about this specific implementation. By relying on systemd, which is decidedly unportable to non-Linux operating systems, so your BSDs and things like that, and not used across all Linux operating systems either. There are distros that specifically use things like OpenRC and SysV and various other things. It will force at least one alternative implementation to exist. If these implementations end up having to collect jurisdiction-specific requirements, that makes it much harder for compliance. Following this change being added, there are already some OpenRC distros which are protesting and basically saying, we are never going to implement this. It is worth noting, however, that none of the enforcement of these bills are yet being done. So when enforcement actually comes in, we will see how many of those distros are still willing to put up a fight. Going to our Polish systemd contributor, I know he is Polish, firstly because he is in Warsaw, secondly, need I explain? It is possible that California law will be changed, but similar ideas are popping up in other contexts, and it's unlikely that they'll go away. This implementation is fairly generic and useful for other things besides age verification.
Okay.
As I said, you're in a corporate network, university network, things like that. So we shouldn't decide whether to merge it or not based on a single law in any jurisdiction. The API is generic, so anybody can try to re-implement it later if they want to avoid this implementation. But for 99% of systems out there, putting it in systemd is very reasonable. Jeremy goes on further to say, the California and Colorado law do not require storing a date of birth, which is indirectly identifying private information in the US, and age could be stored instead. So instead of the actual date, your age, so you are 27, you are 53, so on and so forth. Yes, this means the age bracket could be underestimated, and may then need to be manually updated to unlock things, but it would significantly reduce the ability to determine an exact person from data stored on the file system. The point I want to illustrate is that an operating system using systemd and provided in one of these jurisdictions may want to store an alternative form of data to comply with a minimum potentially being the age bracket itself. The piece of data stored may end up being jurisdiction dependent, with some jurisdictions explicitly forbidding the storage of an exact birth date, while others explicitly require it. This is another thing. So some jurisdictions are saying, we want an age group. Some are saying, we want a age. We want a birth date. And some of the ones that are saying, we want an age group are saying, you're not allowed to store the birth date. So this creates a situation where to comply with other laws, you are breaking different laws. I don't disagree that the UserDB Varlink API could be implemented on other open source operating systems, and that systemd covers a wide set of them. Now let's go to Mr. Lennart Pottering, which honestly is probably a good 95% of why people are angry about this. Also, it is worth noting that they do use Claude for code review. I know some people are angry about this as well. Also, separate topic, we're not talking about that here. Maybe I'll bring it up somewhere else. Here is why he thinks adding it is fine. I actually believe that making sure apps cannot read just the birthday field is a good idea, but it's just one tiny piece of data among so much more important stuff. If people run apps unsandboxed, these apps get access to any file in your home directory and a ton load more stuff on your system, and that data is a lot more valuable than the birthday is. Hence, let's not waste discussion around isolating apps from the single piece of information that is the birthday while leaving everything else wide open. Basically what he is saying is if an app is not being sandboxed, it can access anything on your system, and by accessing anything on your system, it can uniquely identify you as a user. The birth date doesn't actually change that. The answer to PII issues, personally identifying information, is hence not restrictions in UserDB. The answer is proper app sandboxing, and that even already exists in Flatpak. It restricts access to home already and to UserDB too, and that's the way to do it. Hence, just embrace app sandboxing, and if you come to me and say, hey, I run all my apps without sandboxing, but I want the birthday hidden anyway, then I can only say, your model is really, really broken. Fix your security model first, then come back. So I think UserDB should reveal the birthday to per user code, because that per user code then can consume this and provide a portal or something to properly sandbox apps that provides a more restrictive API, i.e. age bracket and so on. But that kind of stuff is outside of the scope of systemd. Here in systemd, we just provide you with a way to maintain the original data. The precise enforcement policy on it must happen in the sandbox. So we are providing the means to store the information. We are not doing anything with the information. That is up to the distros, the applications, and anything else that might be consuming that data. To further add to that, in a pull request trying to revert this change very shortly after it was submitted, he further says this right here. It's an optional field in the UserDB JSON object. It's not a policy engine, not an API for apps. We just define the field so that it's standardized if people want to store the data there, but it's entirely optional. Hence, please move your discussion elsewhere. You are misunderstanding what systemd does here. It enforces zero policy. It leaves that up for other parts of the system, like the distro, like the apps, so on and so forth. And sorry, I am really not interested in these discussions here. It's not the right place for this, and please don't bring it here.
Okay. Linear parting is low-key based most of the time. And I do agree with him here.
He is not saying he's not open to discussions, but he's saying the GitHub itself is not the place for those discussions. As it stands with the current pull request, and things may change in the future, but what was actually merged into systemd, it adds a birth date field, and you can set that field to anything you want. That field can be January 1st, 1970, it can be nothing, it can be your actual birth date. Systemd is just providing the way to store the information. That is what it is specifically doing. Will that change in the future? It's entirely possible. But for what was specifically added now, that is what is in the codebase. On that note, do I think this should have been added? Firstly, I do not support these laws. Full stop, okay? I know people are just going to tune everything out. If I start with this point, they're going to tune it out anyway.
People are so fucking stupid, bro. Like, yes. You cannot support the laws, but you if you're doing this shit, you don't want to get fucking fined.
That's how the internet works, but I do not support these laws. However, they do exist, and there are countries where they don't currently exist that are pushing for these laws to exist. Putting your head in the sand and pretending like they don't exist, that's not going to make them go away, okay? No amount of doing that is going to make the laws go away. Systemd is the default suite on Linux nowadays, and whilst not having full coverage, it's the majority of users. There is also the BSDs, but the majority of people in Unix at this point are using Linux. So, if this does not happen at the OS level, that's not going to stop this from happening, okay? I want to make that clear. If you want to talk about where we're going in a couple of years, this will be at the hardware level if something is not implemented at the OS level. And at the OS level, you have the power to fork it, you have the power to modify the code, you have the power to completely remove the component. If you are running right now a system that is running systemd, you can just remove systemd. Or you can install a distro that doesn't have systemd. When it's in the operating system, you are still in control of it. If it's done at the hardware level, that
you don't get that.
Is suddenly vastly harder.
Yeah.
And like companies such as Microsoft, which are more than happy to implement this in their operating system, the hardware manufacturers are going to be more than happy to comply. And whilst you were complaining about System D, now you're in a way worse situation where you can't do anything about it. Now,
Yeah.
to that you might say, well, I could just use older hardware, and that's great. You can absolutely
You can do
use older
that,
hardware.
yeah, but I mean,
What about your non-techie friends? What about your parents? What about your siblings?
Yeah.
What about all of the normies who just consume, who buy a new computer and don't really think about it? With that being said, however, okay, I know some people have already tuned out already and already leaving the angry comments. I do agree with Jeremy that any merger should wait until we actually know where these laws are going. What is actually going to happen? Is open source going to be exempt? Is that just going to happen in Colorado? Is it going to be California as well? Is it going to be a US-wide thing?
I think
it,
it.
worldwide
I,
thing?
honestly, I
Obviously,
really do think open source software is being entirely exempt from these laws. It just.
lawsuits happen that take this up to the US Supreme Court. As it currently stands, none of this is set in stone. So I agree with Jeremy that any sort of change that is going to happen here should not be done until we know what actually needs to be done. On that note, yesterday...
See, my argument would be writing software is a form of free expression. You are limiting the types of the person's free expression, right? It's your First Amendment, right? Like, whatever, bro. It's your freedom of speech,
but
bro.
Today is as good as you're going to get. Now is the time to actually go and try to make a change in the world. Developers are not the ones that you should be wasting your energy on. If
Yeah, I completely
care about
agree.
these laws, and I know some people just like being angry on the internet because it's fun to be angry on the internet. But if you actually care about this problem and not just care because you like fighting on social media, go outside. Talk to your local politicians.
Yeah, nobody is gonna do that though, because people are also fucking hopeless. They're like, oh, nothing is gonna happen. We're so fucking hopeless. It's learned helplessness. You've gotta do something in the world, bro. You've gotta go outside. You gotta go fucking... Bro, you think these institutions are imponderable? They're not. You can change them. You can change institutions. Trust me.
Call them on the phone. You can even send them an email if you just want to do the easiest thing. But actually go and talk to your politicians and explain what is happening, why you're against these laws, why you think the laws shouldn't happen or open source should be exempt, or whatever concern that you have. Go and talk to your politicians. That includes people who are in countries that don't yet have these laws. For example, Canada and various other places. One person is already making some level of change in one state. That's one person. You can be that one person in your state, in your country, and actually change this. Because you might say, oh, they don't care, they're not going to listen. Here's one example where at least they are willing to hear you out. Whether it's going to change anything, we don't know yet. But at least coming to the table. And especially making a pull request like this, where you're threatening to kill people, this isn't going to change anything. This is not productive, is not going to change anything. You are wasting your energy on stupid things that won't do anything. Additionally, I will say, if you're modding a discussion forum, not GitHub,
I think
discussion forum is...
I think a lot of the anti-AI and people that just really hate System D, I think they want something to be angry at. And it's very angry to be angry at AI and what's happening in the world right now. But honestly, AI, I think, it's gonna cause a lot of issues, right? But I think it's gonna solve a lot of issues too. I mean, look at learning, right? Learning is a very, very, very hard task to do. And we can simulate someone kind of learning using neural networks. It's a very interesting thing, right? But my point is, as I'm learning to, AI is great. It's way better than just Googling stuff all night, because you can get examples, you can get ideals, you can get, like, you can ask AI, okay, so I'm a new programmer, right? And I want to get an idea for a program that I should do. And then you can ask the AI, okay, so what should I, like, how should I structure this? Because, like, a lot of people are gonna very struggle with programming, at least in structural, and just getting the structure of their code, building it out, and then the second thing is just knowledge. You have to have knowledge of the programming language you're coding in, and a lot of people just don't have that knowledge because they are new. I mean, what do you expect? They're new to programming. They're not gonna have that knowledge, and AI can provide a lot of that knowledge because, well, it's useful. I mean, sure, you had Stack Overflow and shit like that, but I mean, I'm just saying, it's great for what it does.
Is a place to do development work, but if you're modding something like a Reddit or like actual real forums, things like that, don't go around deleting threads about this. Unless you have like a mega thread where you want to keep everything contained, there is no reason to be stopping discussion about this, because there is a lot to discuss, and that is the place to discuss it. With that being said, if you'd like to discuss it, feel free to do so in my comment section. Now, I'm sure somewhere along the way, I lost somebody and they're really angry thinking I support these laws and I think that all of this should be done and this should be added into System D. Watch the video. Just watch the video, please. Please just watch the video and actually know what is being said. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video if you want to like the video.
That's
subscribe, all the
crazy.
good stuff. And,
Yeah.
if this seemed kind of rushed, it was because I wanted to talk about this as quickly as possible, but hopefully everything I said came across clear. Again, there's going to be people angry in the comment section who didn't think it was clear, so, let me know. Anyway, if you like the video, go like the video, go subscribe as well. If you want to become one of...
Nice.
Users are great at identifying that there is a problem. Something is wrong here, but maybe not what the problem actually is, why it's there, or better yet, how to actually go about fixing it. One such case is coughing in my microphone causes a seg fault. This was reported and fixed back in 2013, but I recently saw this circulating around, and obviously with a title like that, we have to talk about it. This is reported on a project called Performus, which actually is still being worked on to this day. As this is on GitHub, this is an open source music and rhythm game. An open source karaoke, band, and dancing game where one or more players perform a song and the game scores their performance. Supports songs in Ultrastar, Frets on Fire, and Stepmania formats, microphones and instruments from SingStar, Guitar Hero, and Rock Band, as well as some dance pads are auto detected. Basically, it is an open source implementation of SingStar, Guitar Hero, and DDR, all in basically one package. So of course, for a game like this, sound is going to be very important, and because there are microphones, sometimes sound input is gonna lead to some sort of bug. Now, obviously, coughing wasn't what was causing the seg fault, but this is the sort of replication condition the user came up with. Now, that's one weird issue. I mostly use for now Performus's training feature, read the microphone's pitch, and show it on a sheet. This tool is used for even creating song files with Composer alongside, as seen in a semi-related issue report on Composer's GitHub page, which annoyingly is not actually linked here, and I wasn't able to go and find it because it's an issue from 13 years ago. Now, the mic being used wasn't something like a SingStar mic. My microphone is actually a throat microphone. This allows me to keep my hands free while working and minimize external noise impact. This is basically a little band that goes around your neck, and then rather than listening to the sound that comes out of your mouth, it actually listens to the vibrations, like, directly coming from your neck. This is something most people are not going to be using, but if you need to operate in a completely hands-free situation and you're not able to do something like this where you have a mount for the microphone, or you're in a situation where listening to the sound coming out of your mouth would sort of distort the sound, and you want to have something that's able to sort of like get rid of a bit of that background noise, that's one way to go about it. Now, obviously, having a microphone on your throat is going to sound very different to the sound coming out of your mouth, but if your goal is to get sound, it's definitely a way to do so. However, it tends to over-amplify some sounds, such as coughing or scratching near the throat. In such cases, Performance tries to analyze the pitch and draw notes on the screen, fails, and segfaults. When launched in a terminal, the error is reported as terminate called without an active exception. This might be a hint regarding how Performance handles the microphone inputs. I doubt this could appear in game. In regular play situations, the input usually isn't that aggressive, and this was reported on Ubuntu 12.04. Again, this is from 2013. Now, annoyingly, that error reported in the terminal, this is not really accurate to what is actually happening. And I can see why this would lead you down some weird route about it segfaulting when that's technically not what actually happened here. Now, the fact that it's crashing on a really loud sound should give you some sort of indication on what is actually happening here. It is an application that is supposed to be drawing a pitch line. You go above a certain level of volume, and then the application is like, I don't know what this sound is. I'm just going to die now. Obviously, coughing isn't what is causing the segfault, but if you have a microphone on your throat and you cough, that's a pretty good way to have a really loud sound. To be extra certain that coughing isn't the cause, someone said, this might be an issue with drawing the practice screen as no one has encountered anything similar in-game. However, I couldn't make it crash by coughing, shouting, and growl into a regular headset microphone. So possibly, it's something weird about this specific microphone. Could you provide a backtrace from the crash with the GDB debugger, and then explains how to go and do that? In that log is just normal various log things, and then down the bottom, notably when it crashes,
invalid frequency,
not a segfault, it says fatal error, musical scale get note, invalid frequency. This isn't a segfault. This is their actual self-defined fatal error. So whilst it was saying, terminate called without an active exception, it actually did crash with an error defined by the application. The dev version has touched the code that produced the error, and is likely already fixed. Can you compile Performance from Git and test? Compiled from Git, Performance won't let me open any sound device now for some reason, can't record, nor output anything. Will investigate later. Correction. Audio output okay on system default, which is the only device working. Input still does not even work on system default. Pulse audio is set up correctly. Default microphone works at the system level. So it at least appeared to be not an issue with the user's configuration of their system, which especially at this time back in 2013, you know, Pulse Audio had this sort of reputation of Pulse Audio breaks your sound. Sound doesn't work on Linux. You go to YouTube to watch a video on how to fix your sound. Things like that. That at the time was a very common thing, and at least here, didn't appear to be the problem. Now here's where we get to the actual problem. Performance didn't just support Linux. It also had a Windows and a macOS version as well. And when you're dealing with sound, there are two main ways to do so cross-platform. One, you basically do everything yourself. You have native library integration for all of the different systems you're going to be using. Pulse Audio on Linux, or I guess nowadays you'd use Pipewire. You'd have whatever Windows users, you'd have whatever macOS users, and manage all of those relationships yourself. Now, this is complicated, this is hard, and a lot of people don't want to do so. So instead, what a lot of people do is they rely on some cross-platform library that does that abstraction for them.
As you do.
That is exactly what was being done with Performance. I suppose that we are incompatible with Pulse Audio input because we asked for such a small buffer size. Port Audio suggested latency setting. Technically, this is a port audio bug. It should either choose the smallest available size or offer an API for finding what the minimum is. Also, it should directly support Pulse Audio, which is something that it doesn't currently do. So it uses that OSA API instead, leading to this problem. And the fact that Port Audio releases a new version about once in a decade doesn't really help. So this right here is Port Audio. Port Audio is a cross-platform open source C language library for real-time audio input and output. And basically what it's doing is just abstracting away those OS level audio libraries and giving you one consistent interface to interact with. Now, most of the time this would be fine because most of the time when there is a bug, you're going to have a bug fixed and things are going to go well. As you can see, development is still somewhat happening in this project. It's, you know, not the fastest thing out there, but it does happen. And this is in 2026. When was the latest release? From now. 2021 is the latest flag release. So this happened in 2013. And even back then, it had a reputation for basically never releasing a new version. That hasn't changed. They're still doing the exact same thing. It was entirely possible that at the time this bug was reported, the bug had already been fixed for like 3 or 4 years, and there was just no way to know the bug was fixed unless you're running the dev version, and you shouldn't have to run a dev version for the updates to be within the last, 5 years. The best workaround that I can think of is changing the latency request when pulse or default is chosen. In the past, we used platform-specific audio APIs directly, but that was painful to maintain. So in the past, they weren't using port audio. Instead, for each of the operating systems they supported, they were directly interacting with whatever audio system they were using. So OSA, Pulse Audio, Pipewire, and again, whatever the hell it is that Windows and macOS uses. Nobody knows, nobody cares. Port Audio provided a nice portable API, and it worked on our target platforms. Too bad they also made their last release in 2011, even though there are a number of bugs. So the latest release as the reporting of this bug, as the fixing of this bug, was 2 years prior. Again, you shouldn't have to run a dev version to have any of the fixes, any of the feature changes that were added in the past 2 years. That's not how you should be running a project. Tag it somewhat more often. In most cases, it is best to assume that any bugs in your project are caused by you and not caused by libraries you rely on. Now, of course, libraries you rely on can have their own bugs, but typically it's gonna be your own problem. However, even if it is a bug in an upstream library, if the bug hasn't been dealt with, if the latest release was 2 years prior, it's still your bug, right? Even though it's not in your project, you still have to code around the bug. So that was fixed in this commit here, 94C632A. Audio bug fixing and cleanup should, I like that, should fix the problem reported in bug number 38, Pulse Audio not working. Not relevant to the issue we're talking about today, but something slightly bothering me in the code is there's just like a random go-to here. And I assume if there's a random go-to here, there's probably random go-tos in other parts of the code as well. I always question whenever I see a go-to. I'm sure they have a reason for it. There's probably some sensible reason for it. Also, the way this code is written is disgusting. Why do you have a for loop and an if statement and the go-to on one line? Don't write code like just Don't write code like this. The compiler doesn't care if there's multiple lines. Now, I had thought that maybe this issue got referenced in a more recent problem because there is this right here. Mentioned on February 24th, 2020, crash on Fedora 30. This actually wasn't a mention. What this was someone went and posted a log right about here. And these hashtags, they pound signs if you're old. When there's a number next to them on GitHub, it will go and reference the issue that is associated with that number. So everything from 1 to 43 just randomly gets tagged by this issue. So this was a dumb little issue, and like every time this happens, eventually gets discovered by Reddit and social media, and then people start spamming comments on here because they don't know how to just like comment in the place that allows comments. So eventually this did get locked, which it should have been done from the start because, you know, obviously this was eventually going to happen. But I don't know. I like issues like this. I like these weird old issues that, you know, don't necessarily make immediate sense why they're happening. And are just, I don't know, they're just kind of fun. It's a nice change from any of the serious stuff we talk about. Granted, we don't talk about that much serious stuff, so it's a break from the little bit of serious stuff we sometimes talk about. Anyway, if you have some dumb, random issue you want me to take a look at, please send it my way. The dumber the better, the older the better. Please let me know, because I'm sure there are plenty out there that nobody's ever really thought about. So, I guess, if you like to have some fun, go like the video, go subscribe as well. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you like the video, I said that, like the video, subscribe, yeah, I did that already. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe, Stelly Bearpay, link in the description down below. That's gonna be it for me, and hear me sing.
Cool. I don't know what the fuck happened, but cool. Oh god.
Touching a customer's deck isn't something I do often, but when it does happen, the outcome is usually painful. Because even though Valve made this the most repairable handheld, it shares the same flaw as the others. Everything except the SSD is soldered, which means if one of these 69 components goes bad, you're fucked. Unless you know a micro-soldering masochist that enjoys huffing lead fumes while swearing profusely, which my customer may need depending on what's wrong with theirs. Because this crusty boy will artifact, shut down randomly, and occasionally refuse to display an image, which are all signs of a failing component. But we won't know for sure until we grab these love handles and see for ourselves.
The first thing we need to do in this troubleshooting process is clean this thing, because I am not touching this thing. It's quite filthy. The screen has been greased on a few times.
Yes, not just greased on. It's been sneezed on a couple of times as well.
For sure sneezed. We're both talking about the same type of sneeze, right? Sneeze. Now, there's one thing I want to start. I know you guys can hear this.
Is it sticky? Oh, Lord.
Ugh. Something happened with this one. I think something sticky got in there. Probably
Lube.
probably Johnson sneeze got in here. And you can see it's pretty gross in there. I don't think that's causing the problems. However, if that is liquid damage, then it would make sense that something happened where it got wet, and you know what happens with liquid damage? Random things. So that's an indicator. I'm gonna start by spraying it with our 70% ISO, just to disinfect any sort of STDs that could be on this thing. Is there like a
film on it.
Yeah, is there a film on this thing? I have the regular LCD Steam Deck. There's definitely a film on theirs. Now, is that film nasty? Or did the Steam Deck come with anti-glare LCD? So it looks like it's an anti-glare. It's definitely not coming off. Small scratch on there, but otherwise, it's all right. Not in the worst condition. It's okay. So, we've cleaned it. Good for us. Let's start this thing up, and I need to recreate the issue first. So I'm gonna plug it into our desktop. Shout out to Ugreen for their little Thunderbolt adapter here. Like I said in the intro, this freezes after like 5 minutes or so now. That's gonna make it difficult because I wanna access the logs. I wanna test the SSD and the RAM to make sure everything's okay. I'm leaning towards a motherboard issue, only because from what he said, it happens more often when the Wi-Fi is enabled. That's where I'm heading. Hopefully not though, but it will tell me in desktop mode, and I'm definitely not gonna rip out my ThinkPad and look at these commands that I absolutely know by heart, because I'm a Linux pro. So we're gonna slap the Steam menu right meow, and we're gonna go to power, and we're going to go to switch to desktop. This is gonna put us in the desktop mode, which is basically Linux. It's a full Linux install, which is awesome. And inside here, we are going to go to Info Center and Devices. Ah, crap, it's acting like a secondary screen. Okay, let me just configure the displays. This, I want to be the main screen.
Looks like it died there.
Yeah, did it die, or did I clicked that and then it's trying to default to that, but that's not taking it for some reason. It died. So as soon as I tried to switch displays, it croaked. Yep, it turned off completely. Now, he said it would hard reboot. It's not rebooting, the light's off. It completely died. Press the power button, nothing. Power button's not responding. Press and hold the power button. We have no light at all.
And this was charging for hours.
Yeah, okay, here we go. I guess we don't have a light unless you charge it, but it's been charging for hours. And it was actively charging when we had it plugged in. Even said the battery was at like a lot. So we've been stuck here for about 5 minutes now. Clearly there is an issue. Now, the fact that it completely turned off as soon as I tried to send an image to the desktop display leads me to believe that it unfortunately is a motherboard issue. Just right off the bat, it was requesting a lot of power through the GPU. And remember, this has an APU, which means they all share the same RAM and it's all soldered, which is not good. So if there's an issue with it, there's an issue with everything. Now this is no bueno, because I can't even run tests on this thing now, right? Fan's on. It's definitely charging. The only thing left for me to do right now, take that NVMe out, do a smart test on it, but it's not the NVMe. A bad NVMe wouldn't cause this issue right here. It wouldn't cause a hard shutdown with no power. And then this right here. So that's what we're gonna do. And then I'm gonna have to visually inspect the CPU and see what the hell, if I see anything obviously bad. But if it's a motherboard issue, unfortunately, I'm not equipped to fix that.
Squarespace, today's video sponsor. Squarespace provides a passion projects.
I tried resetting the APU. You hold like volume down and the 3 dots right here, and it's supposed to reset the drivers for the APU. I wanted to
Thanks to Squarespace for bringing all of our wildest passion projects to life.
All right, so after it shut down, I wanted to see if it booted into BIOS, and it did. So I tried resetting the APU. You hold like volume down and the 3 dots right here, and it's supposed to reset the drivers for the APU. I don't know if it worked because nothing happened. It beeped a few times. I don't know if it was the right beeps, but whatever. After I did that, I went into BIOS. We're here in BIOS, but look, 2024-1-1, so the date's wrong. So did I reset the CMOS? Is there even a CMOS in this thing? I'm really not too sure on this. But what I wanted to do was make sure that this guy didn't mess with anything in the BIOS, like he was overclocking or something, because he did say he modded Baldur's Gate 3, which is nothing. But you never know, you know, the customer, sometimes they even forget to tell you, oh yeah, by the way, I overclocked the CPU to like 8,000, megawatts, and it's on fire. What I did though is disable quick boot and disable quiet boot. So hopefully while it's running these tests, it'll actually tell me like where it's getting stuck on. If it still doesn't boot, I'm going to boot into an external Linux USB, because the fact that it is running right now tells me that it at least has some capability still, though even in the BIOS you're not using the GPU to its full potential. So maybe when it's booting up, it's trying to access a certain component that is not functioning properly, and that's when it crashes. I'm gonna save and exit, and let's see what happens here. We're gonna A to select, and we are going to exit saving changes. Yes, that fan is fanning right now. 100% of the memory tested is okay, so everything's testing okay. Well, the RAM at least tested okay, but we still don't know if the components that control access to the RAM is okay. So when there's like a power spike or something, if it's bugging out when that happens. So this is where it gets stuck on the regular Steam logo right here. But since I have Quiet Boot off, it's not showing us the Steam logo, it's just showing us the test. So it's getting stuck right after it tests the memory, which sucks because I don't know what other tests it actually is making. However, I have my own Steam Deck. So why don't I boot into BIOS on this Steam Deck? So power button and the plus, the volume plus, should take me to BIOS. Okay, cool, so we're in BIOS, my date is correct. Let's go into setup, and we're gonna turn off Quiet Boot. And I'm going to save and exit. So let's get out of here, save and exit, where are you? Right there, save and exit, yes. So now we can see where it's getting stuck. It tests the memory, and it's normal to get stuck here a little bit, but where's the holdup happening? Okay, so I'm pressing and nothing's happening, but when I pressed here, something happened. So it's not initializing. The RAM says it's okay, but it's not initializing the actual file system. Now, something I was wondering, I was curious if I could just swap NVMe drives, like swap this into there, if it'll actually work, but I'm not trying to cook anything. So obviously it's getting stuck when it's trying to load the NVMe, or it's trying to initialize the GPU. I don't know, man. I don't know anything about the Steam Deck. And I told this guy, listen, this guy doesn't think I'm some Steam Deck connoisseur. He knows that this is the second Steam Deck I've ever worked on in my entire life, and I barely use that one. So what I am good at is taking apart. So let's take this thing apart. I'm gonna take the NVMe out, and I'm gonna see if the NVMe is good, and I'm going to reinstall the OS just for giggles because the guy said, listen, I don't care if you need to wipe the thing, just wipe it. I can't use it anyways. And that's what I'm gonna do. So that's the next step right here, since I can't do any friggin' tests, and it says the memory's okay. So let's unscrew this baby. Now, the beauty of Linux, Lupe, is you can just plop a drive into another computer, and it'll just work. It'll find a way to work, as long as the hardware in that computer is okay. These are little computers. So, this is my Steam Deck. My Steam Deck works. My NVMe works. I know this works. So I'm going to take my NVMe, that works completely fine, and I'm gonna put it into this guy's. Now, if there's an issue booting, if there's any sort of issue, it indicates there's a problem with a soldered component. That's not good. That'll tell me right away, am I gonna have to tell this guy to send it to somebody, a micro soldering specialist, or do you just need an NVMe? We don't actually have any NVMEs that size here, but let's hope he doesn't need an NVMe, but let's hope he doesn't need micro soldering. Either way, the guy's kind of, you know what I mean? He's gonna be spending a lot of money.
Yes.
All right, I just did this the other day. No SD card, so I don't have to worry about an SD card. And I think I started right here. These were all the gooch crumbs were, if I remember correctly, in my last Steam Deck video. Yes, probably from the side, and I think from here it just actually unclips, right? There it is. Ah, NVMe is located under here. I remember that much. We're gonna disconnect the battery loop. Oh, we can't do it yet. Okay, that's right.
Yes.
What was it? A few screws here. Little shaka, shaka, shaka. Comes up. That's our NVMe. But right now we want to disconnect the battery because we don't want to fry anything. Because then we'd be making a video of fixing my Steam Deck, which would require micro soldering, and I'd have to send it out to somebody. And here we are. Rest in peace, Crucial. My 1 terabyte drive. This thing's probably worth more than both of these Steam Decks combined by the time this video comes out. We live in a society.
We're honored.
Yeah.
Alright, now let's try this, guys. Now that I'm well versed in how to take a Steam Deck apart, he's never opened it up, he got it brand new. This is a 512 gigabyte version. His thingamajiggy is a little different than mine. Alright. Ta-da! How dirty we looking? Actually, not too bad at all, man. That's not too bad at all. Now, do we see any liquid damage? I doubt we'd even be able to see it from here. I don't see anything. I see the markers. That's where they do it from the factory. I don't see anything crazy. Now I'm curious, did this model, the 512 gigabyte model, come out after my model? I don't even know what my model is. I think this had 256 gigabytes. But were there like different revisions? The fan's also different. We use the same BIOS and everything. Interesting. Only 2 screws securing this one? Unless there's a screw underneath here. Yep, that's what that arrow's pointing to. That's reminding you, hey bud, you have another screw. So the Steam Deck definitely has not been operated on, because this is a sure tell. This guy, if that's folded back, it means it was operated on. This one's not. So now we should pop right up. There we go. And I'm curious just to compare the two. The motherboard layout is different too. Look at this. That's different. So I wonder what that's about. The entire thing is actually different, dude. Look at the layout. The VRAM chips. or the RAM, I guess, because it's not just VRAM, but this entire thing is different. These are obviously two different models. So I just discovered something. This is the original Steam Deck design. You notice how the Wi-Fi cables are leading directly underneath the SSD? That's because the Wi-Fi chip is underneath the SSD. There was a mid-something refresh where they changed a few designs. They changed the fan because this one was noisy. They switched over to a different fan. They changed the arrangements of the RAM chips for whatever reason, and they changed the heatsink design. But the one thing they changed that I think is most relevant to this video is the location of that Wi-Fi chip. Because remember, in that guy's original message, he said, when I turned the Wi-Fi off, I had way more stability, and then eventually it didn't make a difference anymore. But that indicates there was something up with the Wi-Fi, maybe not the chip itself, but a component near the chip. Because apparently the Wi-Fi chip is like really close to the components that control the APU and the SSD. So we're still gonna go with swapping my NVMe into here, but for somebody who doesn't know anything, we're getting closer to a possible issue, which is always a good thing, because I didn't know that. This video is less about like, hey, this is how you do it, and more about, hey, I don't know shit, and this is how I troubleshoot things that I've never worked on before, or issues that I've never even encountered before. I don't know anything about the Steam Deck. I own one, I replaced the NVMe, which anybody can do, but I've never had to troubleshoot any sort of issue. Would I ever take this job on as a paid customer? No, I would never do this job as a paid customer. What I would do is buy a Steam Deck that's broken on eBay, or wait for somebody to give me one, and then I'd troubleshoot it and learn all the ins and outs, and I would have learned about the mid-range refresh and all that stuff. So that's also a tip to you guys. Don't use customers as guinea pigs, okay? This guy, I'm doing all this for free, obviously, and he said, listen, this thing's free, so I can't make it, there's no way I can make it worse. I can at least give him some sort of diagnostic. If it's a motherboard problem, I can say, hey, go to this guy. Or I can say, hey, you just need an NVMe, and we gave you one for free because I'm making money off this video. Let's hope that's gonna be the thing. I'm just gonna take a peek under here to see if we have any visible issues with the Wi-Fi or the components near the Wi-Fi. And obviously I don't see anything. There's nothing here that's noticeable. The interference from the Wi-Fi chip and from the SSD to the Wi-Fi chip caused issues clearly, which is why they changed the design. So we're gonna take our NVMe, we're gonna keep the shield intact because I feel like especially with this bad boy, you need that shield. Because if it is an interference problem, then this is why. Put my SSD in there, and I could technically do the opposite. I can put this guy's NVMe in mine, but it'd be a waste of time because if mine doesn't work on here, it means there's an issue, a component level issue, which unfortunately I do think that's what it is right now. Right, meow. Turns off, I think it doesn't hold. It's rebooting itself. Okay, here we are. We're good. It's shutting down. When it's trying to initiate the NVMe, it's shutting down. It's boot looping. So it's obviously not the NVMe. Ah, hold on, hold up. Current SteamOS. Oh, his SteamOS isn't updated. I see. I see. Okay, hold on. Ah, alright. He has an old version of SteamOS, so it won't boot from this old version. Maybe we can go previous SteamOS? Yeah, that's something I didn't even consider, is that if it is a different version of SteamOS, it won't be able to boot, even though Linux itself can boot no matter where. We're in. I mean, we got a boot. We definitely got further than we did with that thing. Let's check out this NVMe. Let's check this thing out. Before I start playing games on this thing, let's check this NVMe. If this NVMe comes up as bad, like the smart status comes up as bad, then we know right away this thing's cooked, and it's not a component level issue, it's just the NVMe, which would be awesome for this guy. Let's plop it into my Steam Deck. But we're not gonna boot into it. We're gonna boot into Linux via USB. And then we're gonna run the smart test within that portable version of Linux. Okay, we're in my Steam Deck and we're gonna go to Boot Manager, and we are going to boot into USB device because we have our Linux Mint in our little NVMe adapter up there. And then from within here, we should be able to run the command to check the smart status of this bad boy. And it's Windows 11. It was working, and now it is not. So my NVMe and his Steam Deck, and we're stuck on the same exact spot. And we only noticed it because it was getting, we heard the fan whirring, and we looked, the screen was off. There was a backlight, screen was off, but it's stuck again. So I had to actually manually power it off and then turn it back on, and it's completely stuck. So, ain't looking good for old pal here. Whoo! This has been a rough one. This is my Steam Deck with my SSD inside of it. We are booted into desktop mode in SteamOS. We have his SSD connected through an NVMe adapter, and we are in the smart status section of SteamOS. It's like Info Center or something like that, whatever. Both smart statuses are good. This drive is good. Our drive is good. Both drives freeze inside of our buddies right here.
Gunther's.
Now, is Gunther's BIOS bad? The likelihood, no. The fact that it dies when it gets hot, that's a indicator that there is a problem with a component, whether it be a VRAM chip, Wi-Fi, something's going on. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Valve did a mid-range refresh because they were like, maybe we shouldn't have put the Wi-Fi card directly underneath the SSD. It sucks. This sucks. So this is me asking all of you guys, do you want to work on this? If you do component repair, do you want to work on this? Because I'll just give your information to this guy. Because clearly this is over my, I've done everything I can do. I've tested, you know, the SSD. I've tested the OS, it boots. I've done the basic troubleshooting, but now this involves component repair. And it also begs the question of, is it going to be worth it for him? Because how much is someone going to charge to repair this if they even can repair it? That's the other thing. And this is kind of the thing that sucks about having a handheld. It's great, but if anything goes wrong besides the NVMe, you're pretty much. The Steam Deck has like incredible repairability. You can buy parts directly from Valve. They're pretty cheap. They have, it's very easy to take apart. You know, it's very modular. However, I mean, unfortunately, because of the APU, the RAM is soldered, CPU is soldered, GPU is soldered, Wi-Fi chip is soldered. Now that's one where they didn't really have to be soldered. That's a engineering, I'll leave you guys to discuss that. But yeah, this guy's toast. He's it sucks.
5 minutes later.
Well, we tried reflashing SteamOS because I said, well, you know what? Maybe it's a BIOS issue. Maybe I can just completely reflash it, including the BIOS. Again, the guy said he didn't care about his data. And here we are. We've been in this boot loop for about 20 minutes. So it will not go past this. This is with SteamOS being installed from an NVMe. I made sure SteamOS, the install was good because I tested it on my machine and, you know, works on my machine. Trademark. So yeah, this thing is completely fucked. The BIOS will not flash, the firmware won't write. All this crazy nonsense stuff is telling me that there's a component bad. I just don't know what component it is, but something's bad in this thing. So yeah, this thing's cooked. Unfortunately, this thing is cooked. Unless one of you guys in America wants to send your information to my customer, make a video on this or work on this or do whatever. I don't care what you do with it. I just want to help my customer out. So what an exciting video this was. This sucks, man. This is actually one of the reasons I closed the repair shop in general, because we were seeing more problems like this than anything else. Problems that required micro soldering and access to schematics that didn't exist. Now, the Steam Deck, they don't have official schematics. Valve is very pro right to repair, but they still don't have schematics out. So even if I was, you know, smart enough to take this thing apart and test voltages and stuff, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to test or what to test. There are people that make their entire careers off of doing micro soldering for devices that no one else can work on. And that's the career that you should get into. If you actually want to do this for a living, become a micro solderer, dude, because you will always be in demand. You will face different struggles than what I face. I can't find parts for anything. They can't find schematics for anything. All the devices now require micro soldering, everything, especially now that APUs are more common and RAM, shared RAM, and GPUs are more common, everything's soldered to the board. You're going to see that more often, failures like this. And I was seeing it more often when I had the repair shop. And now I don't, because I don't deal with like this anymore. I personally don't find this stuff interesting, and micro soldering does not interest me whatsoever. But that's where the industry is going. That's where we're at right now. I saw that, and I don't like it. You can even feel it when you're working on a customer's device. You notice how there hasn't been any like banter back and forth? It's because this is serious. Like, I want to f around to a certain extent making jokes and stuff, but also at the end of the day, I want to fix this dude's shit. But the difference in the video is also the difference in real life, where I'm way happier when I'm not working on a customer stuff. When I have no expectations that I need to meet, it's stressful. But when I'm just taking a computer that's 25 years old and I'm throwing it onto this table and plugging stuff into it, I don't care because the stakes are low. I don't care what happens to it. And that reflects just in general with the industry when you're doing it as a hobby versus when you're doing it as a business. And even though I'm not charging this guy, I still have pride in trying to fix it for him. Even though he had no hope. He knew this thing was cooked from the jump. He knew it was a motherboard issue because he did try reinstalling the OS and stuff. But I mean, until then, yeah, let me know. Hit me in the comments, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. And don't worry, next video is going to be way more fun than this. This one was very technical. This one showed you, if you do have a problem with the Steam Deck, how to fix it yourself, if possible. But this one's not possible, so thank you, Lupe.
Check me out, Lupe G1.
Second grade to Steam Deck technician. That's Apple, man. Type shit. We're gonna get the stream going to about 4 hours, and then I'm gonna cut it because I low-key gotta go. You need to cut it. My bad. Man, GTA 5 channel. Missed that shit. This is from Watch Dogs, bro. What the? Where's this fucking thumbnail, bro? What is this thumbnail?
I found this today. Don't know how long we're gonna spend on this. These are probably unnecessary 3D graphic designs of bedrooms. Is apparently a huge niche on TikTok. Like, just absolutely ginormous. So many of millions of people watch these videos of 3D renders of bedrooms and bathrooms and like architecture design. They're usually like unnecessary or like weird looking. They add weird animations. So let's just check them out. All right. So here is the account. House Design 77, 1.7 million followers. Design happiness. Let's keep that in mind. Design happiness. That's their motto. And build a home for love. Interesting. Moonlanding.cc is the link that they have provided here. Remind me to come back to this one after we watch some, because I haven't seen that. Let's find the 8-person bedroom one that was on Twitter. There it is. So loud. Okay, so for 8 kids in one bedroom, because that's something that you should definitely be doing. So, yeah, first problem, I saw this already, but first problem, there's a fucking ceiling fan for 4 of these young children that want to get into bed. They're gonna get decapitated. It's too low. It's too low there. Or they'll just fucking clip through the wall and never go to bed, too, which also works. Just right into the wall. The boy who walked up the stairs now is now in Hogwarts. Put all of their clothes under
Okay, bro.
I mean, I'm looking at the logistics of it, but, like, again, the starting problem here, 8 kids should not be in the same bedroom. If you're having 8 kids, you fucked up. You fucked up. You should have had the bedrooms planned ahead of time before having 8 kids. What anti-orphanage are you running here? What anti-orphanage operation is going on here? You fucked up, clearly. Anytime you have to pull out a drawer that's 8 feet to get to clothes in the back, I mean, what sucker is stuck with their clothes back here? You gotta pull out the whole fucking thing.
What?
I got nothing to say. I don't know what to say. It felt like it was part of my memory, and now it's gone. So let's just continue, actually. Oh, great. They can all snap together.
Yeah. They can all play their iPad games right here.
Their iPads midday. I'm assuming.
Wait, what? Why are we making this?
It's a child sweatshop factory. It's a joke. And then what they add? A monkey bar gym in the end? Yeah, just get their exercise in. They could be strong ringmen. Absolutely. So that was the first one. Gotta wonder who owns this account. I gotta wonder. It is interesting. All right, let's just shop around, huh? Are you seeing these views though? 27 million. I can't even think of like other TikToks besides like major celebrities that have this many views. 21.4 million.
Okay.
Mute this one. 4 kids bedroom design. I don't know what was going on there at the beginning. All looks good so far, except the 4 kids in a bedroom, but it's better than 8. You know what? Throw back the music. I like Sweet by Psycho. Oh, whoa! What a rolling. Just fucking through the roof. Just
go. Yeah.
Oh my god. That was just a screw? Rewind it. That was just a screw? That looked like a hydraulic press that just miniaturized. It was just perspective. The issue is it goes so fast. I gotta catch things. Yeah, because that's great. You know, when you want to pick out your dress shirts that you're going to wear that day, you're going to pick it from your bunk bed and bring it down with you. Oh my god, the tiger's back! I mean, let's just not talk about it. Okay, look, these kids aren't reading those books. Okay, I'll be honest though, if I was a kid, I'd fuck with it. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fun. That looks fun. But you would think it's like a really good time. You'd be so excited to move in. And then every single morning, you'd have to pick out your shirt and pants up here just to bring it down, accidentally trip down the stairs on your brother and sister, and then have to get change out here. 4 kids in a room. It would suck. Whoa! But, I mean, that looks pretty fun. The clipping through things doesn't get old. That's pretty funny. You get, hold on. Well, I'm sorry. This whole time, you guys could afford not MacBooks. You guys could afford Mac computers. 4 of them. And you got them all cramped into one bedroom.
Mac
You're looking at
computers, bro.
$20,000. You put them into 1 bedroom. What were you thinking?
What is this, a fucking school, bro?
What operation are you running here? I missed this in the beginning where they just walk into the room too. What are you guys scared of? I missed that. This is so bizarre. I love it, but it's so bizarre. Popular bedroom design. Same song. Rewind. I keep missing things. What the why are they fighting? Like, I love it giving like the measurements too. Like, by the way, this is like 2 feet. This is 2 feet across in case you're taking notes. That is 2 Chinese symbol across. What? Hold on. You're going too fast. What is this? What is this? Why did you do this? I don't get it. Are those supposed to go into the cabinet? Because right now, this is the disaster. But then you flash it in front of our eyes just to take it away into the ceiling. And then these 2 come out, throw punches him. They disappear. Suddenly he's at work. What is happening? Through the ceiling. You know what? Throw the whole room away. Hydraulic. No, it's just a screw. You got a gorgeous view, and you got fucking dancers through the ceiling. Throw them up there. Brick wall. It was never a room, actually. Secret trap door through the window. It's an elevated bed now. What a comfy chair. I bet it disappears. Trapdoors everywhere. Why not? Okay, now we have developed a somewhat normal looking room. How are we gonna fuck it up? That desk was already there. Why'd you ever get rid of it? What? What's all this? What's all this currency you got here? What the fuck are you hiding? So much. Was this room even this big to start with, or did they just cave in a whole wall? They gonna fight each other again, or have they made peace? Okay, she's gonna fuck off. He's gone too. And here's our popular bedroom design. That's our popular bedroom design. What are our thoughts on that one? I haven't looked at any messages. That was somehow crazier than all the other ones we've seen so far. That took so many turns. After all that, popular bedroom design. According to who? I've never seen that bedroom design in my life. That's what I want to know. Is this easy to make? What app are they using? Does anyone 3D render? Is this really easy to make videos? Do I need any skill to do this? Because I'll do it right fucking now. Here's a popular toilet design. Same song. Okay, that is a toilet.
Okay, well, yeah, we're gonna end it here. I'll see y'all another day. I gotta go. I gotta get going. I'll see y'all. Peace.